So in this video, what I'd like to do is show you how to contribute to the Universal Data Tool, starting by looking at an issue. So on our GitHub page, there's the Issues tab, and you can see all the issues that we currently have. If you're just getting started, you'll want to look for ones that are marked with good first issue in purple here. So that means that that's one that's good to work for, and you'll want to avoid anything that says big. If it's big, it means it's architecture related, it's kind of hard to fix. It might even be a multi-stage PR process where multiple PRs work towards that. So what I'm going to do in this video is show you how to, or show how to begin the contribution process on one of these big PRs. But for a smaller PR, you would really just kind of do it. There wouldn't be multiple steps. So Keyboard Shortcut Manager is a dialog that allows a user to manage keyboard shortcuts across all interfaces. So there's a little bit of design planning that goes into this. There's no mockups provided in this design. If you have a good idea on how something should look, you can go for it and create what's known as a story in this project to demonstrate how this should look, and then you attach a screenshot and you say, how does this look? If you're less confident, you can literally just draw a mock-up and stuff like that and comment and say, hey, I'm interested in this, etc. So how do we begin an issue like this? Keyboard Shortcut Manager, that's pretty big. So first, I'm going to open up a terminal here. I already have the Universal Data Tool project there, and it also says I'm at origin/master. I'm just going to fetch and make sure I'm on the latest version by just going to origin/master. So this is I'm on a detached branch from origin/master, and then I'm going to check out a branch for this feature. Oops, I hit a hotkey in GitHub. So let's say git checkout-b for creating a new branch. Oh, this is a little small, isn't it? Okay, a little bigger there. So git checkout-b, and I'm going to do let's say keyboard shortcut manager. If you want, what you can do is say feet slash, which is something sometimes people do, feet slash or fix slash. It doesn't really matter. And one other thing is you might be working on your fork if you do this. So if you do that git fetch on your fork, you'll be getting the latest version from your fork and not the upstream project. And so in that case, what you want to do is say Git Remote Add, and then you can call it upstream is a good way to do it. Git add upstream, and then our project URL, which is git@github.com, universal data tool / universal data tool.git. Okay, so that adds. So it's not letting me add it because I already have it. But anyway, but you would do that, and then you could do I believe git fetch upstream, and then you can check out upstream/master, and then do the same thing with the git checkout. So let's go back to that. Git checkout-b. I guess I gotta retype it. Git checkout-b. We're calling this feet/keyboard shortcut manager. Branch names don't really matter too much. So we're now on that branch. If I do a git status, I'm using my hotkeys here, it says I'm on this branch. So now that I'm on this branch, what I'm going to want to do is start the development environment for Storybook. So when you're creating a new UI component or debugging a UI component, figuring something out, just how something looks, you want to use Storybook. If you're dealing more with the data structure, you might, or something on the file system, you might want to run the application normally. To run the application normally, you do npm run start, and what this will do, it'll take a second, but it'll actually start the Universal Data Tool on localhost 6001. And I'll let this boot up just to show what happens if you run it. Okay, great. And it also gives us some warnings here. We, instead of doing that, we're going to do npm. Oh, am I blocking it? We're going to do npm run storybook. And so this will run on 6002, so our original port is 6001. Now we're going to 6002. It'll run basically a development environment for our user interface. And this will take a second to start, and then it should open up in our browser, hopefully. Okay. And now we have access to sort of all the UI components. So there's the image classification component. We can test a scenario where it allows multiple selections, image segmentation. So now we have kind of an image segmentation UI. So you can just quickly click through this, and this is really great for developing the specific UI components, because you don't have to keep navigating in the app to whatever you're working on. And you can also test a lot of different states of it. So what we're going to do is create a new storybook for our keyboard shortcut manager. So what I'm going to do is cd into my universal data tool directory, and let's take a look at the file structure here. So there's a lot of directories. The most important file is the package.json and the source directory, and a lot of these, the dist, the lib, the build, these are all node modules. These are all just kind of like things that are built along the way. If you're building a desktop application or building an integration test, you might want to look at the Cypress directory or the desktop directory. But really, source and package.json, those are the main files you want to concern yourself with. And then in here we have some other directories. So lib is for, actually, there's really not much in there. It probably shouldn't even be a top-level directory. Utils has a bunch of, it looks like React hooks and various things we can use, kind of miscellaneous directory. Vanilla is for people who are importing the universal data tool. Components is actually where the meat is. These are all, a lot of these have stores, but these are all the different components that are used in the React app. So each of these is a React component that can be used in a React application, imported, and sometimes these import each other. So we'll want to create a new one of these. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to hit, let me make this a little bit bigger. I'm going to hit S in Ranger, which, well, actually, why don't I do this? I will delete that. I'm just going to enter a terminal here. I got to get my face somewhere where it's not in the way. Okay. So I'm in this directory with all these components. I'm going to create a new component. We're going to call it Keyboard Shortcut Manager Dialog. Okay. And I'm going to cd into that directory. So if you look in any of these component directories, let's go up. Well, let's just pick a random one. Starting page. So you can see there's this this structure of index.js and index.story.js. These are the most common two files to have. Index.js is in every one, and then index.story.js is in the one with stories. Basically that's it. We're going to want to create those two files. So I'm going to go back up, Keyboard Shortcut Manager Dialog. We have nothing in this directory right now. I'm going to say create index.js and index.story.js. So these story.js files are pretty special. They're automatically imported by our storybook once we actually have some stuff in them. So for now, what I'm going to do is open that index.js file, and I'm going to create a very simple component just to verify that we're kind of working from a setup perspective. Hello world. This is the Keyboard Shortcut Manager. Save that. Okay, so very simple React component. And then I will cd into our index. Cd into our story. I don't actually remember how stories are supposed to look. We sort of use a version of Storybook that's a little bit older, and so it's easier to do it in the new Storybook, but in this one we have to import this stories of. We have to import React stories of, action is used to mark to mark when events happen. So if let's pull this up. So in story, but I'm trying to show actions, but I actually don't know if it's showing. For some reason, it's not showing. Maybe something's broken. Oh well. Anyway, actions. Normally, if I hit if I hit one of these start from template or open template, it would actually execute this line because on open template was called, and then it would log down here all the parameters that happened. So that doesn't seem to be working. So we can actually probably just ignore that for now and solve that later. And so what we need to do is import React stories of our starting page, and then we just say stories of module add basic, and then our stuff. And I think the string can be whatever, but we use basic for the first one a lot of the time. So like, what is this? Component basically. So let's hop back into Keyboard Shortcut Manager, see how much of that I remember. So we want to import React from React, import stories from storybook/React, and then we want to import Keyboard Shortcut Manager dialog from our index file, which is a shorthand for that is just /, or you can do /index.js. They're the same. And then we'll say stories of Keyboard Shortcut Manager dialog module .add basic, and then we just return a function, and this function needs to return our component. Keyboard Shortcut Manager dialog. All right, this will be a miracle if I got this right. Let's see. So, okay, so our story just magically appeared on the bottom right there, so it recognized that we created a new story. If I click on it, hello world, this is the Keyboard Shortcut Manager. It's under the name basic. So we've created the story for this, and now we can start developing our component. So, actually developing the component, this project uses Material UI. This is actually a fairly complicated component. I might not show the whole thing because it could take half an hour to mock it up. But we use Material UI, so a lot of times you're going to be in this Material UI reference. This is one of the, it's either the most popular or one of the most popular React libraries for laying out user interfaces. And so it has all these great components you can use. And so in this case, since this is a dialog, we'll want to look at the dialog component. Yeah, simple dialog, so something like this. And if you click on show full source, you can see the code that actually creates it. So we'll want to import dialog title, stuff like that. What you might want to do in this case is look for other components that are like a dialog and copy something from them. So we have a bunch of things. We actually have something that's interesting is we have this simple dialog. So I think that's a base class for actually creating dialogues. And you would know this just by looking. So let's actually go through a more normal process. So we were looking at that create from template dialog earlier. Let's see, do we have anything that uses a dialog in here? It'd be great if we did. I don't know if we do. I don't see any dialogues. So in our starting page, we have this create from template dialog, right? And this dialog looks fine from my perspective. So we can actually probably use that as our starting point. So create from template dialog. So we don't have a story, but we have this index.js, and it looks like it imports that simple dialog. So I'll probably want to do that. And then simple dialog, its usage, you have a, whoops, I don't know if everything is visible here. Oh. So for its usage, you have a title, you have open, which is a Boolean, indicating if it's open, you have an on close, and then it looks like this is the internal content where all the buttons, so it's rendering each of these buttons. So that's probably roughly what we want to do. So let's go ahead and do that. What did I call this? Keyboard Shortcut Manager. I'm going to open this in Vim. And so we'll import simple dialog from / simple dialog. And instead of returning what we returned before, we'll return simple dialog, title equals, manage keyboard shortcuts. We'll say open equals open. So we'll take what we'll do is we'll take a prop from here. So open, and then I think I also saw on close on that other guy. So we'll just pass those along. On close equals on close. And then actually let's just add some content. We'll add a hello world in it. Hello world. And then close that simple dialog. Normally I don't use Vim, so Prettier would kind of handle laying this out in a nice way. If you don't have Prettier installed, Prettier will fix your code automatically and make it look nice. I think I can run it manually. Oh, I can't. Maybe I can use npx. Let's see. npx Prettier, mix.js. Okay, so, and then I think if I give it a W flag, it'll actually write it. How can I get it to write? Check list. Right, -- right. Okay. Fix it for me. There we go. That's a little nicer to look at. Okay. So let's hop back to keyboard shortcut dialog. You can see nothing's showing. So I'm guessing that's happening because we did not pass the open prop to it. So in our storybook, or in our story, we can modify it and just say open equals true. And on close, I guess we won't handle on close for now, but normally what you would do is use that action from the storybook actions, and you would say, okay, well, when they try to close it, just log it. And then we have our dialog. And so you can see this updated automatically, which is very convenient. So now we can continue building this, put the insights in. I think I'll use probably a table to display all the keyboard shortcuts. So what I would do is I would look up table in Material UI, table, and then it has some examples of tables. So maybe what we could do is, have the keyboard shortcut kind of name listed here, and then what the current binding is listed over here. That seems fine. So then I would just click open this code. This looks good. So copy all these imports out. So once again, I'm going to quit out of this. Hop in here, paste these. And then this is the code to actually use the table. So maybe what I'll do is just copy out their table for now. I'm not going to copy maybe I could copy the table container. Let's try it. Let's see what happens. Okay, so delete my hello world, paste this. So that should give us a basic table to work with. It says paper is not defined, so we have to import paper. Material UI imports follow a really common pattern. So if you're ever lost, it's probably Material UI /core/ and then whatever the component name is. It says classes is not defined. Yeah, so it looks like there was some styling on these. I'm just going to remove that for now because actually, I guess we can keep the styling. So let's see how they do the styling. They use use styles, so I'll have to import that as well. So use styles, you import make styles for. So this is one of Material UI's many styling solutions. We also use styled, which is another way to do it. It's also part of Material UI. They all kind of end up being very similar, but I don't know. It's whatever your preference is. It's not not that picky as long as you're not inventing a new technique as far as what's acceptable in a PR, and somebody will just tell you like, oh, that's not our usual styling solution. Okay. Okay, so that should automatically update actually. Oh, rows is not defined. Okay, what's rows? Whoops. What is rows? Oh, they kind of have this. Okay, well, we'll obviously have to replace this, but that's fine for now. Okay, paste. Okay, let's see if that worked. Cool. Okay, so now we've got our table displayed in here. A little big, but we can make it smaller. Yeah. So there's a lot more to the to finishing this specific feature, but that's basically how we do it. I'm going to commit this version of it just to show how the commit process works, how you can take this to the next step and actually PR it, just to kind of go full circle on this contribution. But what I'll do is when I make this PR, because it's not done, I'll make it in draft mode, and that way nobody accidentally merges this with a bunch of ice cream in it. So first, I use git status. Well, let's clear this out. Gotta get my face somewhere where it's on the way. Let's try down here again. So git status. I can see my change component. I'm gonna add it, and I'll say I'll say boilerplate storybook for keyboard shortcut manager. I'm going to push this to my branch, and then I'll go on universaldatatool.com, and I will hit compare and pull request right here. If you don't see it, you can go to pull requests and hit new pull request, and then select it manually, and it should come up for you. So we have feature keyboard shortcut manager, and you can see all the changes. I would take a quick look at your changes and make sure they're good before doing the PR, and also make sure that you don't have a bunch of commits. If you have a bunch of commits from merging or because you've gone back and forth between upstream and your own branch, there are ways to solve that. Reach out to me on Slack. Basically, you'll want to do a rebase. And then you'll want to give it a name. Shortcut manager is what I'll call this one, because I'll probably keep adding to this. And then how do I mark it as a draft? So I'm going to create a draft. So I just hit this, mark it as a draft. Shortcut manager. So fixes, and then we'll want to say 165. And so we'll link these together. Create draft pull request. Normally you might create a pull request if you think it's done. If you want it to be reviewed, create a real pull request. And that's it. And then when you hit ready for review, if you did a draft, it'll actually go into full mode. But this is a good way to test it against the continuous integration and stuff like that. So that's basically how you would kind of start contributing or start working on a big issue. For a smaller issue, it can be simpler. You might not even need to create a storybook, but that's how you would kind of start creating a feature.